The words 38th Street in Minneapolis mean only one thing to most people: the place where George Floyd was murdered. But long before that, 38th Street was a vibrant, classy thoroughfare for African American culture and business. The 25-year-old Cultural Wellness Center, founded by Elder Atum Azahir, has a dream of recapturing that vibrant and proud history. Dreamland on 38th Street. In the past, it was a real place, and with your help, it can be again. I'm Don Shelby. I sit down with Anthony Taylor, one of Elder Atum's sons, to talk about what it could be again. Anthony, take me on a little tour. Start on Lake Street, right out here outside our window. Once one of the busiest and liveliest streets in Minnesota, but in the past 50 years has seen declines, particularly in the eastern end of that thoroughfare.
And I will say, I love talking about the history of Lake Street. And one of the questions that I often ask is really, a matter of fact, usually what I'll do is I'll show a map, Don, and it's this transit map of the Twin Cities. And I go, what year do you think this could exist in? And people, and it's really it's an amazing map that shows all these connections and lines, and people will, they know we have a light rail system going in, down by Bde-Makaska, and so coming out of downtown, so they go, 2030, they go 2030, 2040, and I go, well, how about 1930, and so that is one of the things I show right away, is that there was a moment in time when Lake Street was really the heart of Scandinavian America. There was a time when that was the case, and really we have to go back up. And another crazy thing about Lake Street is, imagine a bicycle rush hour. So in the late 1800s, when the bicycle was the pinnacle of technological achievement, much more dependable than a horse or a car, right? That people, there was a bicycle rush hour on Lake Street. Like, you could stand on Lake Street to get across at Bloomington or Chicago, and you'd have to wait, for 30 minutes. I mean, it was that kind of thing. That this was a place where immigrants moved in 1900, right? The Norwegian, Swedish, community is moving here. And as the street continues to grow again, we build a streetcar system. This is an important street, right? You can hook up to a streetcar that will get you all the way out to Wayzata, get out to Lake Minnetonka. And so this is a really important street. And at this time, because it's valued, and I'm saying that the unfortunate reality, it's valued because this is European immigrants who come to America and become white. They're not white when they get here, but the idea of whiteness and what is created here happens right here on Lake Street. We invest there. So the question that I have now is, what would it take for Amazon to move to Lake Street today? What kind of political will from our city government, our state government, the business community would it take for us to build and lure Amazon to build a regional headquarters on Lake Street in Chicago? And, because of what we're going through, we know what it would take. And actually, because we have such a close relationship to our political leaders and, Commission President Jenkins and Chavez, Council Member Chavez, these are people we know in our community. We know what it would take, right? And it would be hard. Well, in 1927, they got Amazon to move to Lake Street. We are in Sears Roebuck, and people don't really know that in 1930, Sears and Roebuck was the Amazon of its day. You could be in Wyoming, order a house through a catalog, and have it delivered to your house. And that's what it was. And so we in the Midtown Global Market are in the Amazon of its day. It's an amazing infrastructural achievement. And more importantly, it was an amazing economic achievement. It was an amazing economic win for the city to have this business here. And the implications for the community are important. Jobs, right? Access to the materials you need, transportation. The community slowly begins to go into a less valued situation, right? That community, that European immigrant community, now white, is making what we then refer to as white flight. They move out of the cities. They start to move out. They start to leave the boulevard. And slowly Lake Street goes from being the new car capital of the world, right, in the 50s, in the 60s, and being the longest electrified lit street in the world, to being the used car capital of the world. Eventually Sears leaves this building and leaves this abandoned. And what we now begin to see is the beginning of what we are talking about in terms of these cultural corridors, because the more highly valued community, it moves out, and now, immigrant and at this early stage African American communities begin to move in along Lake Street, move into these communities around here. And there again continues to be a slow underinvestment, disinvestment in the communities. And that is the beginning of what happens. And so slowly over time, what we begin to see the turnaround is that those communities begin to do exactly what we were describing. They begin to open restaurants, small stores, furniture stores, selling to very specific communities. And we start to see an uptick. And you know what is really interesting about this is, who else is also investing all the time, Don? Artists. And so, do you remember Lake Street USA and Mr. Huey's installation? You know what I didn't really remember until today? The global market was closed when he put those pictures on the building. Remember that? That literally, yeah, I totally forgot that. So this installation, these large-scale installation of photos of people living in the community, a reminder that people live here. And he does it all along Lake Street. And in some ways, that becomes a catalyst for the attention that, our great mayor at that time, leader at NDC, Mike Tamale, and community members come together and go, we need to bring back the Midtown Global Market. Those were community members, led by Council President Jenkins at that time, working in a community level project. And they did an RFP for the Midtown Global Market. And that's why Midtown Global Market is actually a really interesting symbol of that. And the Midtown Global Market comes back after that.
What kind of leadership, what kind of change in perspective is necessary for this dream to become a reality?
Well, I'll tell you what, Lake Street, again, is full of vitality. It is exactly what we said, is that the cultural communities, all of them, the Latinx community, the Somali community, African American community, the East African community, which is not Somali, also exists, in this space, and they have the will and they're fortified with culture to like grow this. What we really have to do is we have to align with our financial systems, whether they be municipal systems or banks, CDFIs, that we have to find a way to mobilize capital to actually support what you're talking about, the dream. That the human capital is there, and what they need is support of willing financial capital to really support this. We have to actually do what I think about as some also capacity building, right? Which actually helps our small businesses, our building owners really begin to be able to navigate the infrastructure of the traditional city municipal system to get things done. It's not easy. It is not an invitation for a small building owner or a small business owner to come downtown and get things done. It is its own juggernaut. And so for us building, better connections, stronger pathways, easier systems to do that. The other thing that is happening, and I think we have to see more of, is philanthropy that is committed to the change we're talking about, is also creating more flexibility, is also creating and making it easier for business, for organizations that are supporting cultural communities to have access to capital and support their growth as well. And I think that those are the things that are coming along. And we have seen some of that especially since George Floyd's murder, where we are beginning to see some of the flexibility around that. But centering the voices and the vision of the entrepreneurs and the community members that live here now is really important for us. And the last thing that I really hope we can achieve, Don, and it's really important that we can actually achieve solidarity of vision for cultural communities broadly, because the ability to keep the perceived vision and goals of the Somali community separate from the perceived vision and goals of the African American community, and those uniquely perceived goals of East African or the Latinx community, the fact that they can see their visions as separate or different is really important to maintaining, a system that is really about oppression. And when they, for us to achieve solidarity in terms of what the real challenge is, I think that's when we really will see something major happen on Lake Street. And Lake Street, more than any place in this state, relative to Minnesota, the future of this state actually lives on Lake Street.
We invite you to watch more about Dreamland on 38th Street. The links for the video will be provided. And we invite you to dream along with us, to return 38th Street to the vibrant center of African American culture that it once was and will be again.